are on. Oof.
Oh.
It's been a while, boys. It's been a while. Welcome back, everybody. So this is actually the first time here on the channel in quite some time we've had more than just me, but today it is actually Serbensky and Calvin. They're both here today, and today we start our NFL series. We'll be doing this probably for the next month or so, maybe a little more. Today we're starting with the NFC North, which of course means we'll be doing the Lions and everybody else in the North, of course. But yeah, we'll be doing the NFL. We'll be starting that series. We'll be having the college one starting pretty soon too. But we don't have too much time, so let's get into this one. Sremensky, take it away.
Let's go. First off, real quick, we're recording this on June 13th, so just quick shout out, completely different sport, but congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, NBA champions. Okay, that's out of the way. I just had to do that.
And probably
we're gonna
Vegas,
do
because
this.
they're gonna blow the crap out of the Panthers tonight.
we're gonna
Poor
do this
Miami
in-
fans. You lose your NBA team the day before, and now you're about to lose your NHL team the next day.
I mean, hey, they had 2 8 seeds go to the finals in their sports. That's still pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that is true.
We're gonna do this in win total order from lowest to highest. We're gonna start with the Green Bay Packers, who actually are tied with the lowest win total in this division at a 7.5. Obviously, the key departure, Aaron Rodgers, nobody important. We'll be having Jordan Love step back into it. Aaron Rodgers' last pass will be an interception to Kirby Joseph in Lambeau Field.
Kirby Joseph, his father.
To miss the playoffs, by the way.
To miss the playoffs at home in Lambeau Field. Anyway, here is the Packers schedule. They're gonna start on the road against the Bears to start the season. Then they're gonna go to Atlanta, and then they go back home for the Saints and Lions, and then they go back on a West Coast road trip to play the Raiders and Broncos. Then they come back home to play the Vikings and Rams before going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Then they are home against the Chargers before they travel to Ford Field against the Lions again. Then they get the Chiefs, and on the road to MetLife Stadium versus the Giants. They've got the Buccaneers, and they finish the season on the road against the Panthers, Vikings before finishing it off against their arch rival Chicago in Lambeau Field. Now, gentlemen, what do we think of the Packers? Do they hit 8 wins and go over this win total? Do they fall short? What do we think of Aaron Love, Jordan Love? Your guys' thoughts. I know Calvin has a lot of thoughts on this division.
Yeah, so I have them going 6-11. I don't think that they're particularly going to be that good. Rodgers did a lot of carrying last year. Had a bad offensive line. Christian Watson was arguably his only decent receiver, which Watson's good, don't get me wrong. But not a great offensive line. Like Bakhtiari, you can't count on. He just injuries and stuff. Defensively, the defense is good. There's no question about that. But just is Jordan Love going to come in and he's easily the worst quarterback in the division. There's no way you can say he's better than any of the quarterbacks without from what we've seen, obviously Fields carried that Bears offense last year. They are the best rushing offense in the league. To be fair, they couldn't do anything else, which will change this year, by the way. I think Darnell Mooney's a good receiver. And they have a couple guys coming back last year that are rookies. I forget exactly. They have the one guy, Tennessee, whatever. But the big one's DJ Moore. This is not the Bears section. Anyways,
it's not the Bears section.
Anyways, Packers have they have a good defensive line, a decent secondary. Jair Alexander's good, but I just I feel like Love's going to struggle against a division that should be, besides the Lions, a pretty equal division.
Yeah, they did get with their first round pick, the defensive end out of Iowa, Lucas Van Ness, who was pretty highly rated, and then for that wide receiver core, they did get 2 new guys, notably the most notable being Jaden Reed, big guy to throw to, and then Dontavian Wicks from Virginia. So they did get
also
some
multiple tight ends they drafted as well, which should be good. 2 good tight ends.
2 tight ends within the first 2 rounds from South Dakota State and Oregon State, and I feel like South Dakota State is the FCS version of Iowa when it comes to tight ends. They just produce, from what I know, they just seem like a tight end school. I don't know why I'm saying that. They just seem like a tight end school.
I could be wrong, but they do run a lot of wing T stuff, which is a very, very run heavy offense where the tight end has to be a good blocker because they play tight end on each wing, and yeah, so they don't like their tight ends aren't like obviously Iowa level, but they are a very run heavy offense. So usually their tight ends go in the NFL and are at least decent blockers.
Yeah, and they did get in the 5th round out of Penn State, Sean Clifford, who we kind of know who Sean Clifford is at this point. He is someone that if you put him in the game, he's not going to do anything special, but he's also probably not necessarily going to screw it up to the point of no return. He's not going to be a Nathan Peterman 5 interceptions, I don't think. But at least you have something if Jordan Love doesn't work out. But I mean, banking on Sean Clifford probably is not your best.
5th round pick's a little rich for Sean Clifford. Even I wouldn't have drafted him.
That's
in
a
any
really
round.
high
I don't
pick.
think.
Mitch, what do you got? What do you got the Packers going record wise? And what's their toughest games?
Well, you said the win total was 7-5, right?
7.5.
Or 7.5, as I meant. But yeah, I'm probably gonna go similar to Calvin, 6-11 or 7-10. Just the fact that they won't have Aaron Rodgers, like you look at basically what they've been like for the past few years. Literally, Aaron Rodgers has been the reason why they continue to win. They have a good run game. I'm not going to say they don't. I mean, Aaron Jones, almost said Aaron Rodgers again. Aaron Jones and why am I forgetting the other guys? AJ Dillon. That's a good tandem at running back. Good 1-2 punch. But really, like Calvin said, now it's going to be Jordan Love. We already saw Jordan Love against the KC Chiefs when Aaron Rodgers was out due to COVID, and he looked just like, any other backup. He just didn't look special. And so, I don't know what he's going to be like. I don't think Green Bay really expects him to be any good either. They certainly gave him, like you said, a couple options. They got a couple tight ends. They got Jaden Reed. They still have Christian Watson from a year ago, as well as Romeo Dobbs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Dobbs. Okay, never remember how they pronounce that guy's name. But I really, I think Green Bay expects to be last, and they probably will. Obviously, having the AFC West doesn't help when you got the LA Chargers, the KC Chiefs, the Denver Broncos who are trying to be good again. And I think with Sean Payton, they will because, well, he's not Nathaniel Hackett. He's actually a coach who knows what the heck he's doing and actually knows how to keep time, too, by the way. And as for Vegas,
you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna run the ball. They're not gonna let Russell Wilson have to play hero ball because he does not have it in him anymore. He can be a good quarterback. I'm not saying he can't be a good quarterback, but he does not have the ability to just run around in circles and try to complete passes because that's just athleticism is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in any case, I would take I'd say 6-11, 7-10. But in any case, it still will be under 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, if Aaron Love can come out and show that he can be serviceable to good, I think they can go over the win total. But I mean, it's kind of tight, especially because my biggest worry is the season could start off really demoralizing. I mean, you got to go to Soldier Field to play the Bears, your arch rival, who you've just like gotten so accustomed to like beating the crap out of for so long. But now that they might actually, be decent, Soldier Field is proven to sometimes not be the greatest conditions for a field ever, time and time again. So that's not a good place to play. And if you start off the season losing to the Bears after you have not lost to the Bears in like a long time, just because Aaron Rodgers kept beating them up, that's not a good foot to start off on if you're the Packers. You don't want to start off losing to your rival. And then, man, what do we think in division? How many games do you think in the division they win?
I think they go 1-5 or 1-5 or 2-4.
You think they beat? Who do you think they beat? Well, actually, I think the Bears and Vikings.
I think they beat the Bears in one. I do think they're gonna win week 1. I think it'll take a second because the Bears team is just like entirely new additions, whereas the Packers core is like generally been there. They have the rookies and stuff, but the core, like their best players are not like new additions. And I don't think they beat the Lions. I think the Lions are going to whoop them twice. I think the Vikings I think they either split with the Vikings, or I wouldn't be surprised to see them split. I'm going to say 1-5. Yeah, I'm 1-5, but
I think that's a pretty safe bet. I think they split with the Bears and potentially split with the Vikings, or something crazy goes wrong. They split with the Lions, but we play them at Ford Field to start, and then by the time we play them the second time, we'll have James.
We play them at Lambeau
back.
first. Ford Field is the Thanksgiving game.
I'm looking at it backwards. Because I'm thinking I'm on the Lions page again. So that could be, a potential trip up. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the Lions will still beat them, but
Being in front of a national audience is a Thursday night game.
Oh, that means it's gonna be a bad game. That means it's gonna be a low-scoring game. Any final thoughts on the Packers before we move on?
No, not really. It's just it's a Jordan Love era. It's what every Packers fan's been waiting for, right? Here it is. It's the Jordan Love era, boys. Come on.
Wouldn't be surprised
still
if they were one of the
face.
worst Ford teams in the league, though. I don't think they would be, but not having a quarterback, you see the Jets. The Jets were extremely talented everywhere, but quarterback. And the Packers are by no means extremely talented everywhere. So if they don't have a quarterback, there's only so much you can do in the NFL.
If I'm Green Bay, really, if you're the Packers, obviously, leagues have been getting annoyed by it. But, if I'm Green Bay, it's just like, what the heck? Why even try this here? Just tank and go for Caleb Williams. If they get Caleb Williams, you know how dead the rest of the league is going to be? That is their next Aaron Rodgers. Just much more athletic, can throw the ball however many yards down the field. You put Caleb Williams in Green Bay, it's a nightmare for the NFL. Those receivers, Green Bay has a very young receiving core. I don't know what Dobbs is going to be, but Jaden Reed's decent. Christian Watson showed promise last year. They got a billion new tight ends. Watson's going to be a legit one.
He's a really good receiver. Reed doesn't have the size to be a 1, or he does, technically, but I don't think that he's going to end up being 1. I think he's going to be a good 2, and then Dobbs could be a good 3, and then they have 2, worst case scenario. Oh, not worst case, but generally, the way the Packers draft is the way they drafted 2 tight ends. One of them is probably going to be good. 2 athletic tight ends that were good in college. It's not like they're just pure athletes, but it's one of them is going to probably be good. So that gives you at least 1 tight end. And then obviously, like you said, Jones and stuff. But I think the season rests on the shoulders of Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm. All right, and now we move on to the Bears, who have a 7.5 win total. Their notable additions in the draft were Darnell Wright at the offensive tackle position with the 10th overall pick, and notable for Calvin and Calvin only, Travis Bell with the first pick of the 7th round out of Kennesaw State. I know he's got to rep his Kennesaw State guys. There'll be an FBS team here soon. I actually just ordered my dad's Kennesaw State mini helmet for his shelves.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's sweet.
Because they're gonna be an FBS Conference USA team next year, so he's got to have it on shelf for next year. So I just ordered it, but it was expensive because it had to be custom made. So it was $50. I'm like, whoo! I got him those, and then the 2 joining. Jacksonville State was decently cheap, $25, but Sam Houston was also $50. It was ridiculous. Anyway, the Bears' schedule is going to be, they start at home versus the Packers, and they go on the road to the Buccaneers and take a road trip to the Chiefs, which will not be fun. You get the Broncos at home before going on the road to the best field in all of football, FedEx Field, for the Washington Commanders game.
Oh, yeah. Top of the line. Field.
Well, that's the first time I've heard that.
Toilets busting everywhere.
Pipe exploding.
They go back to Soldier Field versus the Vikings and the Raiders before going on the road to play the Chargers and Saints. At home versus Bryce Young and the Panthers. Then they go on the road to Ford Field to play the Lions, and also on the road against the Vikings before going home and playing the Lions again in 2 out of 3 games. On the road against the Browns before, some nice home games against the Cardinals and Falcons, and ending in Lambeau. 7.5 wins. What do we think is going to happen? I'll be back in a few minutes, actually. So you guys take over for the Bears.
Alrighty. First, I think they're gonna go 8-9. I think that they're a much improved team. Like they were so devoid of talent last year. They added like Robert Tonyan at tight end, who's like he's a good backup to Cole Kmet. You can run 2 tight end sets. And then they're like splash signings for linebackers. Tremaine Edmonds and T.J. Edwards. Like Tremaine Edwards was a really big deal for a linebacker. Which you can make the argument, oh well, they're not worth it. Like Edmonds is gonna be their Mike. He's going to be like the leader on that defense. He's the perfect type of defense for that system that they run. And so he's good. He's very good. He's very good cover linebacker as well. So that'll be good. They added Deontay Foreman, who should have a decent 1-2 punch with Khalil Herbert, kind of replace the loss in David Montgomery. And they actually drafted wide receiver Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati, who I really like. He has did track and played running back in high school, so he's good after the catch. He can stretch the field. And then they also drafted Roshan Johnson, who's like a notable like locker room guy. He was the backup to Bijan Robinson all 4 years. Didn't transfer out, stayed there. Like all his teammates are like, this guy's awesome. This guy's like the best leader. And on top of that, obviously Darnell Wright, who should slot in at either left tackle or right tackle. Probably right tackle because Braxton Jones is going to be at left tackle. But just an improved team all around the board. And like with how good Fields was last year as a runner, I think that they'll be 8-9. I don't think they're at the place where they're fighting for a playoff spot yet. Just because of some of the like games that they have a division where they should be around equal with the Vikings. Vikings are kind of on the down; they're kind of on the up. But like it should be a must improved roster. It should be a very very fun offense to watch. The defensive line is just awful though. Like that defensive line is going to be rough. Teams are just going to run right over them. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on them, Mitch?
Honestly, I mean, personally, I don't like the Bears. I mean, I don't like the Bears, obviously, but I do like their team. I mean, they're very young, which is the thing for me about Chicago is their team's just really, really young, and so it's going to take a lot of time. And like you said too, there's a lot of new faces in Chicago, so it might take them a bit of some time to gel for a bit. But I really like, I love their offense specifically. Justin Fields, fantastic quarterback. Deonta Foreman, Khalil Herbert, nice one too. And then you add in Roshan Johnson, who I think is a little underrated because he was stuck behind Bijan Robinson all those years. And Travis Homer's a decent depth guy, but I really think that is so underrated is a receiving core. I mean, they now have a clear number one option in DJ Moore. Now, I know a lot of people don't really care much for DJ Moore. Some people say he's really good. I mean, there's mixed reviews. Some people say he's really good. Other people that say he's overrated. I think he's a really good receiver. And now that he's going to have an actual quarterback throwing to him, and it's not the revolving door that's been the Carolina Panther QB for like the past 3 years, I think DJ Moore's going to like it a little bit more in Chicago. And then they also got Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, who are both very young receivers and I think have a lot of potential and still have yet to reach it. So I love their receiving core. And then the tight end room, you got both Cole Kmet and Robert Tonyan. And obviously last year their huge problem was the offensive line. And while, I mean, Jalen Carter was available at 9, and honestly, if I was Chicago, even though I do have a serious issue on the offensive line, I would have taken Jalen Carter. I mean, the guy was clearly, I think, the best defender in the draft, not named Will Anderson, and he ended up going to 10 to Philly, which I guess we can just call them the Philly Bulldogs at this point. But
that's the best possible place he could have went. He has all the people that are keeping him in check. Last year, they have Jordan Davis. He's Nakobe Dean. Like he has everyone that he's been playing with for years on that team. So like he couldn't have went to a better team for him. And then the Eagles get to, like debatably the best talent in that draft. So
yeah, the Philly Eagles, they continue to just somehow end up with the best players. But I really think that what's gonna, what I think will determine how good the Bears are this year is gonna be a defense. Was because they were one of the worst units in the NFL on defense last year. They were really bad, and they went on a bit of a spending spree, like you said. T.J. Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds. They also got DeMarcus Walker. They got a couple pieces to try and help out. Now, of course, since they traded away Roquan Smith last year, that kind of hurts, but. I think the Bears are gonna be decent. I think. You said 8-9. I think 9-8. I think they'll at least get above 500. They'll probably be in the hunt for the playoff race in the NFC because there's five really good teams and the rest kind of all just are average. But I think there's still a couple. There may be a couple, 2 or 3 years maybe from being a really good team, but they're definitely on the up, and in a few years they'll be scary. But they are very very young, and I would not want to face this team. Even this year, I wouldn't really care to really have to play them, but especially next year. I think next year is going to be their year.
Yeah, I do think there's a couple years out. Obviously, like Fields, the best asset you could possibly have is a good quarterback on a rookie deal. If you look at the Super Bowls, like the last 15 Super Bowls, there's been either Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, or Drew Brees, and then obviously Mahomes, or like rookie quarterbacks or quarterbacks on non-massive deals. It's like you had Russell Wilson was a rookie at that point. There was here, let me go back because let me go check just the last 10 Super Bowls.
How are we talking about Russell Wilson for the second time in an NFC North video? What did
Never mind. Let's ignore that. But I just brought up how valuable of an asset a rookie quarterback could be for a contending team. Part of the reason 49ers are in a good place because obviously they don't have a quarterback, debatably, but they have 2 quarterbacks on rookie deals that are serviceable at the minimum. If Lance can stay healthy, he has the potential to be a top 10 QB, arguably. Will he meet that potential? That's a whole other question. But in that offense, it's not a.
I'm sure the Niners fans would be just happy with one of their quarterbacks staying healthy for actually a full entire season.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't care because I can't stand them. So if every quarterback does get hurt for them, that's great for me. But I'm sure Niners fans are just even if one of them stays healthy, hey, that's great.
I just know they're not making a trip to Soldier Field anytime soon.
No, I highly doubt it. Or to MetLife because that seems to be a death trap for them too.
I know that's technically not where Trey Lance got hurt, but I feel like that did not do wonders for his ankle that got hurt the very next week.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And it seemed like Kyle Shanahan wanted to kill him with the amount of QB draws that he kept running for him. It seemed like
that's his game. That's like Lance's game. To a point, you got to adjust, but
yeah, exactly.
That's why they drafted him.
Did we finish up with the Bears? Then are we moving on to the Vikings?
If you have anything to talk about them, we can. But generally, we're done.
I'm kind of glad that I had to go run during the Bears thing because I really have no clue about anything of the Bears besides I don't want to say they're going to be good, but they're probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, we are going to move on to the Vikings, who have a win total of 8.5. Obviously, they were first in the NFC North last year at 13-4, which that 13-4 could have easily been. It could have very easily been like a 8-9, just with how many 1-4 games they played. Hey, all props to them for winning that amount of close games and coming back from 33-0 against the Colts.
But it's unsustainable.
Very unsustainable. Anyway, their win total set at 8.5. Their big, marquee additions, mainly being Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. Definitely a good target to throw to when Justin Jefferson inevitably gets double or triple teamed. Anyway, moving on to their schedule, they will start at home against the Buccaneers before a tough road game against the Eagles. Why is my camera just not stationary? We've got the Chargers at home before you go on the road to take on the Panthers. You've got the Chiefs at home, which it'll be another tough game before going on the road to the Bears. You got the Niners at home before going on a 2-game road trip to the Packers and the Falcons. Then you got the Saints at home, Broncos on the road, Bears at home, for finishing up with the Raiders and Bengals on the road, Lions at home, Packers at home, and finishing the season in Ford Field against the Lions, which could be a game that decides the division. Or, the Lions could be 16-0 at that point, just looking to cap off a perfect 17-0 season. What do we think of the Vikings? Do they get over the 8.5 mark? Are they around that 8 mark, 9 mark? What do we think?
You can go, Mitch. I have a ton, so I'll let you go.
Oh.
You guys go. No, I'll cap it off because I got a lot on the Vikings.
Oh, that sounds good to me. I shouldn't take too long on this one. They went somehow, some way, still have no idea, but they went 13-4 last year. I think there was, I don't even know, was there even one game of which they didn't win by a single possession? I think every single game.
Every single one-score game they won. First team in NFL history.
That's absolutely insane. But anyways, this year, last year no one knows how they went 13-4, but they weren't a great team. They found ways to win somehow in the most flukiest of ways. Now, they do have obviously Justin Jefferson, who is probably one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL right now. I think Jordan Addison is a very, very good complement to Justin Jefferson. I mean, he replaces Adam Thielen. Thielen now going to the Carolina Panthers. I think Jordan Addison will be even better than Adam Thielen. So I really like that addition for the Vikings. But they released Dalvin Cook. So now their number one running back is Alexander Madison, who is good, but let's be real, he ain't no Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins is overrated. Sorry, Calvin. I know he's a Sparty, but no.
Well, that doesn't mean I like him. well, now, let me rephrase that. I like him. Doesn't mean I think he's good. Because I don't think he's that good. I think he's him and Derek Carr are tied for 15th. I think that they're right in that middle. I don't think they're gonna kill you, but I don't think they're gonna do too much for you.
I think he's a great guy, really good, person. But
yeah,
for sure, yeah.
That aren't good.
Yeah, right. I know he was at he spoke at our big event that we had with our church. So he actually was in Arizona for the Super Bowl when we did it. So for human trafficking.
Oh, nice.
So really cool guy.
Very cool.
Yeah, but anyway. for Minnesota, their defense is still a gaping hole. There's still a lot of holes all over the place on the defensive end of the football, and Dalvin Cook now being gone is gonna hurt. So I'm going with 7-10 probably. I think the Vikings will likely fall into last place in the division. Maybe they get ahead of Green Bay, but I'm not really enthused by the Vikings. There's not much defense to look forward to, and now without Dalvin Cook, like I said, Alexander Madison's a good running back. I don't think he's Dalvin Cook. I just like Dalvin Cook a lot better. And Kirk Cousins is a serviceable QB. Everyone in Minnesota hates him, but if they really want to win a Super Bowl, I think they'll have to move on to somebody else. But this year, I think 7-10 is realistic.
I think they hit the nail on the head with the win total. I think 8.5 is right where it should be because I personally think they're either going 9-8 just over, or 8-5, or not 9-8, or 9-8 and just over, or 8-9.
9.
8-9. Yeah, I'm getting so confused by 17 games instead of 16. 9-8 or 8-9 or 8-9.
9-8 or 8-9. There you go.
The opposite, right?
9-8 and 8 or 9. I think they're going just under the win total or just over the win total. I mean, there's a couple clear losses on here. I think in Philadelphia is a clear loss. I think the Chiefs is a clear loss. I think the Lions, clear loss.
San Fran.
At Bengals, clear loss. San Fran, clear loss. That's 5 clear losses right there.
I don't know. They have the Bengals early. Bengals are never good at the beginning of the season.
No,
it's week 15 where they play Cincy, and it's in Cincy.
It's week 13. Is it the Bears that play them early? Because I had one of the teams playing them early, and I had them losing actually.
Maybe it's the Chiefs or the Eagles. Because those are the only teams that
Chargers are week 3.
The Chargers, but also the Chargers blew a 27-0 lead in the playoffs. So Who knows?
And they now have another ex-Lion as their offensive coordinator. They learned from their last mistake. They had a former Lion offensive coordinator. Now they decide, you know what, let's go get the former quarterback who was terrible for them for years, and then became Dallas's offensive coordinator for God knows why.
Coordinator, so.
I'm very interested to see how that works. I mean, Justin Herbert can carry the offense by itself. They just gotta get over their charging and not charge.
Well, as long as whatever the guy's name, I don't remember who the other offensive coordinator was. I forget his name. I just know he was an ex-Lion offensive coordinator. He doesn't try to turn Justin Herbert into a pocket passing quarterback like the other dude did with Stafford and then Herbert. I think they'll do pretty well. Because Herbert he's not a pocket passing QB. He can move.
It was Joe Lombardi's the offensive coordinator.
Joe Lombardi, there we go. Yeah, if he doesn't try, if Kellen Moore doesn't turn into Joe Lombardi, I think the Chargers will be a bit better offensively and actually succeed a little bit more, even if it is still an ex-Lion.
I think they're going to be.
Kellen Moore's a stud. He's ridiculous. He's a great offensive coordinator. I don't know why the Cowboys let him go.
Because Mike McCarthy.
I know why, but like I don't know why. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they should not have let him go.
They should have made him.
It's Mike McCarthy. He's the biggest moron.
Bigger part.
It's Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones. I mean, no one in Dallas makes any sense. Jerry Jones is, honestly, in my opinion, idiot. None of the stuff he does makes any sense. And as for Mike McCarthy, why on earth would you hire that guy in the first place? Haven't fired him since.
Fire the guy who ran a QB draw with 12 seconds left and no timeouts.
Yeah, question. Which play against the Niners was more stupid? The QB run or the snap with Zeke Elliott at center? Like, what in the world was that?
Oh, man,
what these plays?
Watching Zeke Elliott get absolutely flattened was the best part of my night.
I know, that was really funny.
All right,
as much as I hate San Fran, watching that straight years was hilarious.
Yeah.
Give us your Minnesota spiel.
Yeah, stick it away.
So basically, coming off a 13-4 season, then a first-round exit, and so they not only won a NFL record 11 one-score games, they also ended the season with a negative point differential at 13-4, which is that's pretty impressive, to be fair. Like, to be 13-4.
Hard to do that. Very hard.
Yeah. But yeah, so they had a really mixed free agency. They lost a lot of good players on the team. They lost because of cap casualties and Kirk Cousins being paid half $50 million a year, which is ridiculous. They had to release Eric Kendricks, who's been their starting Mike for years, and then Thielen, who's always been a Lions killer. So I'm glad that he's out of here. He's an ideal wide receiver too. He's a little on the old side, but he still has a lot left in him. And great guy, great locker room guy. But also losing they're starting. Oh, well, not starting tight end because of Hawkinson, but Irv Smith, who's a good tight end. Like Patrick Peterson, who was great last year, by the way. And then Dalvin Tomlinson, who was their one guy who could stop the run. And,
didn't they trade a defensive end to the Browns too?
Yeah, they traded Zadarius Smith.
There we go.
They got they got 2 5ths back, and they traded 6th and 7th with him. So not the best value, value for the Bears or for the Browns, but but they had a pretty underrated free agency overall. Like, they brought in Josh Oliver, who's a good blocking tight end. Like, he'll be the replacement for Smith, kind of. Not very expensive. They brought in Marcus Davenport, who was a really good, really underrated player for the Saints. He's a defensive lineman. Should be he's a good edge. He could get into 12 to 15 potential sacks and be borderline Pro Bowl. Or he could be he's 26 years old. He's young. They also signed Byron Murphy from the Cardinals, who I like Murphy. He's not awesome, but he had 4 interceptions in 2021, and he wasn't great, but he's also a 2-year, $17 million deal, which is for a player of his talent is kind of it's a good range, but he's good. And then they didn't have the best picks, but they found value in places they drafted. Jordan Addison, obviously, you said that. Like the receivers in this year's draft were kind of like the top like 3-4 guys. You can make an argument for all of them. You can make an argument for Flowers as the one. You can make an argument for Quentin Johnson's one. You can make an argument for him. So it's like, yeah, he's good. He's gonna be really good. He was the Blitnikoff winner. So like in 2021 with Pitt, he was good. Yeah, my personal favorite pick. Well, before that, they also drafted Mekhi Blackman, who's a pretty good physical corner out of USC. But my personal favorite pick, excuse me, and then one that actually should help negate the loss of Dalvin Cook is Dwayne McBride out of UAB. Is a 7th round pick. That the reason he was a 7th round pick was because his ball security is iffy, which you don't love that from running back, but that's a very easy fix. And then also just the 3rd down value. He's not a pass catcher, can't really can't pass block, but he is a good runner. He led FBS in yards per carry. He had 7.4 yards per carry, and then had 1,700 yards and 19 touchdowns, which outstanding. Good athlete, really physical, and has good vision, can find the holes, and overall, I think the Vikings, I don't think they're going to be awesome. I do think that they're going to sneak some wins. I do think that they're going to end up beating one of the good teams on their schedule just because they have talent. They have a good coach. I really like their coach. But I don't overall. I think they're going to go 8-9. I don't think that they're going to be great.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I would think the same thing. Minnesota just they don't really get like I said, Dalvin Cook's gone. The offense is really, I think, the only thing about the Vikings that you'd look at and be like, yeah, that's pretty good because the defense has lost quite a bit. Now it's time for the hometown team, baby. Come on, let's go. I've been waiting for this one.
All right, I know everybody's been waiting for this one. All right,
I know.
and your highest win total in the division prediction: the Detroit Lions with a 9.5 win total.
I'm betting the over.
Okay, he's already. I haven't even have not even set the schedule, and he's confident. I mean, he's done.
I don't care.
So
They
I
can
have
play.
over,
They can play
too.
every first place division from every division. I still think they're going over.
They can play the Chiefs. What if they played in Arrowhead every single week?
Okay, maybe not 9.5. They played in Arrowhead every single week. But if they had 2 games, against every single division leader, and then 3 games against our in-division teams, I think they go over 9.5 wins.
Fair enough. All right. Well, their big draft, they had Jahmyr Gibbs out of the running back position out of Alabama. They also had Jack Campbell out of Iowa as the linebacker. And, they trade one Iowa tight end in TJ Hawkinson and get another one in Sam Laporta. They love themselves some Iowa tight ends. Brian Branch. This is what, after looking at the whole draft, I'm okay with the class. I like the class. I just feel if you put Brian Branch in the 1st round and Jahmyr Gibbs in the 2nd round, everybody's like, oh, this is the best draft ever. So
yeah, exactly.
I like a lot of the players.
Hooker was picked in the 3rd. Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. NFL teams loved Gibbs. It was obvious he was going to go in the 1st. He probably would have been available at 18, but teams Jets were saying they were going to take him. Patriots were saying that they were thinking about him at least because they were rumored to draft Bijan, and Bijan went early. But Gibbs,
that's probably who we were planning on taking.
Yeah, Brian Branch in the 2nd round was I really
like that. That was a great
awesome
pick.
Value. That guy should have been top 25 pick.
Again, say Brian Branch was the 18th pick and Jack Campbell was the 2nd round pick. Everybody would love it. And Hendon Hooker,
exactly.
I'm okay with it because at that point you're just drafting a really high-end backup that's going to be a backup in the league for a while. I don't think he's ever going to be the starter. I mean, maybe, but I think he's a ready QB, so I think he's going to be a good backup in case anything does happen to Jared Goff or in the future. I like the class a bit more. It was not as fun on draft day, but I really like it looking at the whole class. Anyway, let's get into the schedule. We can talk about the rookies in a bit. We start with the NFL kickoff game. The Lions are going to the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs for the NFL kickoff game. This is weird. I'm not in this usual territory. I'm actually living in Arizona. I'm actually going to be able to watch the Lions for a few of these games finally, because I never get to watch them because they're never in prime time, and I'm not paying for. I'm sorry, I'm not paying for $500 or $450 for YouTube.
Not paying for Sunday ticket, which is now on YouTube, I think now. It's on like YouTube TV.
It's like $450 for the whole year. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's too much. Anyway, we start in Arrowhead against the Chiefs, then we play the Seahawks and Falcons at home before going to Lambeau to take on the Packers, before coming home and playing the Panthers. Hopefully it's not the same outcome as the Panthers game last time we played them. Then we've got
home?
It's
a home game. It's at Ford Field.
Okay. Well, then it won't be because they have one of the worst fields in the NFL.
That's true.
Playing on cement.
And then we have the Buccaneers and Ravens both on the road before playing the Raiders at home. That's a favorable one.
On a Monday night game of all
I was about
things.
to say I see that's ESPN. That's a Monday night game. Then we'll go on the road to the Chargers before playing two divisional rivals at home against the Bears and Packers. Before then going on the road to play the Saints and the Bears again. Before welcoming the Denver Broncos to home. Before finishing the season with the Vikings and Cowboys on the road and finishing the season at home against the Vikings. There's some tough games on there, but if these Lions are as good as they should, as advertised, they're gonna be good. That they have a win total of 9.5. So I would assume both of you are gonna say over because of course they're gonna go 17-0. But whichever one of you wants to take it. You know what, Mitch? We'll start with you again.
All right. Well, I actually before this actually had already put down my predicted scores for all the games. But I have the Lions at 11-6. I really like this team. It's really their first two games are really rough. I mean, first game at Arrowhead, really? Come on. I mean, look, this is a young team. I mean, you really are going to start them with their first game against the defending champions on the road in the very first game of the year? Really? Okay. I mean, okay. I mean, I guess it's good from exposure, but I mean, seriously. I mean, can we go with a lower stage? Like, give us actually a team that we can actually beat to start the season on a good note, rather than the defending champions, of which likely we have no chance of beating. However, if we did win, that would be awesome. But
We're going 17 now. What is this even a conversation?
If you're gonna play the Chiefs, we see it year and year again. You don't want to play them as the league goes on. We don't want to play it as the year goes on. Week 1 is not ideal. Week 3 or 4 would be more ideal to play the Chiefs against. But if you're gonna play them at all, early in the season is better. The thing is, it is prime time. It is Arrowhead, so obviously that's not easy. But the Lions, they don't have Mahomes, but you can make an argument that they have a more talented overall team now, which that's probably crazy for me to say. You can make the argument. Offensive line's generally balanced. We have a better receiving core. We have better running backs. They have a better tight end, way better quarterback. But defense-wise, you could make the argument that we have a better overall defense. And I'm not crazy for saying that. So
I'm sure he has 10 hours of facts to back up those claims. I know you have a
keep going into.
I've
done so much work on this Lions team, so I'm really excited for next year.
I'm with you, especially with the potential chance of first game of the season. They were the ones who just won the Super Bowl, so but I'm sure, honestly, with how much talk this Lions team has been getting in the offseason, I'm sure the Chiefs are going to come out very, 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 very excited for this game. But I'm kind of with you. I'm thinking 10, 11. I mean, if we were able to get 8 wins last year, essentially, I think Jameson Williams is probably going to play the same amount of time. I don't remember exactly when he came back last year. Obviously, I think he's going to miss 6 games.
He's going to miss the first 6 because of the gambling thing.
So, how many games did he miss last year?
It was 6.
I believe he missed 8.
Well, it was actually a little more.
It was 8 games, I believe, around 8 games that he missed last year. But also, he was coming off injury. He's going to have he has the entire offseason to train. And then he can still technically practice. I'm not certain he can practice with the team. I know he can practice off campus, but So it's not like he's coming back from a serious injury. He's going to have another year in the system. Like, he's not going to come. They're not going to ease him back when he comes back. He's going to be full, like, pedal to the metal the second he comes back.
I mean, it might
So
be
it's
better.
not the same scenario.
It might be better if he trains at home so he can be on FanDuel at home, not in the Lions training
Yeah,
camp.
by the way, the NFL's gambling rules are by far the most stupidest stuff I've ever heard of. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. But I got 11-6 for Detroit. The offense is still just as good as it was a year ago. I would have liked maybe Michael Mayer rather than Sam Laporta. We probably could have gotten Gibbs later. Probably could have gotten Campbell later. But the players of which we got, I'm not necessarily disappointed by. It's just we drafted a lot of them, I think, a lot earlier than we really needed to. But, we wanted our guy. They're all good players. I'm not the biggest Gibbs fan, but, we traded away DeAndre Swift.
When you watch a game.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched, DeAndre Swift doesn't never stay healthy, so I mean, in that regard, Gibbs does the same thing that Swift does, in my opinion. He just does it a bit more healthier. He's in the game more than DeAndre Swift.
He does it on steroids.
Exactly.
He has speed that Swift doesn't have, and he has vision that Swift doesn't have. On top of he has that pass catching ability. He has that the only thing he doesn't have what's the word I'm looking for? He doesn't have the frame Swift has, which the frame necessarily he's not as big. Swift could have run through tackles. He has a physicality too. He just didn't do it. That was a big thing. Campbell didn't like that. Obviously, Hard Knocks, if you watch that, the coaches were harping on him. He just wouldn't put his shoulder down. He would try to bounce around and try to. Whereas so Gibbs is what they call that one cut back where he's running, he sees a cut and he's gone. He has the speed to break touch. He's good.
He's really a perfect complement to David Montgomery, of which also I think that's a really underrated signing. I like David Montgomery. I know a lot of people just kind of crapped on that signing because Montgomery was not good in Chicago. Have you seen what their offensive line has looked like for the past 3 years? The fact they did anything in Chicago was impressive, but I think the Lions are going to be 11-6. I think they win the division. They'll have a rough start with being against the Chiefs and the increasingly improving Seahawks, but I really like their schedule. I think most of these games they'll win. I mean, I don't think they win at Dallas. I don't think they'll beat the Chargers. I don't really think they'll beat the Ravens either. But every other game, I mean, obviously not the Chiefs either, but I think pretty much every other game they could plausibly win. And I really like their odds of winning the division. So I got 11-6. I really like their chances this season. Calvin, I know you got a lot on these Detroit Lions, so
right.
why don't you take it away?
I do indeed. All right, so first off, I'm going to state I have them going 13-4, which is I have them losing to the Chiefs, I have them losing to the Ravens, I have them losing to the Chargers, and I have them losing to the Broncos. I think that I think that those teams are going to be. I think this is not obviously AFC West video. I think that the Broncos are going to be extremely good this year. I think Peyton's a great coach. I think he's the perfect coach for the scenario. They have a very expensive team and a team that is built to win now. So I think that he's going to just get as much as he can out of that team. But so obviously Lions great recovery to the season last year. Started the season 1-6 and ended up going 8-2 on the final stretch. And we're a controversial penalty away from the playoffs with the blocked punt or the penalty on calling the punt. But they even during the beginning of the season they couldn't the defense just couldn't manage to stop the ball in big moments. In weeks 3 and 4, they gave up 48 points against the Seahawks, and then a blown coverage on the Vikings' final possession cost them the game, which are two games that one, if they stop the Seahawks once, they win that game, and all they have to do is not give up a 45-yard touchdown to whatever receiver. I forget who the receiver was, but to the Vikings. So I don't think the Lions start. I think the Lions come out firing. As Dan Campbell says, like once a team learns how to win, that's when they're hard to stop. So like the Lions learned how to win last year. So they upgraded their secondary a lot. Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, those two guys, great. Mosley coming back from injury, obviously, and then signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson to a 1-year deal. Johnson, outstanding safety. If I had to guess, they're going to play him at slot corner. Tracy Walker's coming back from injury. Then you also have Kirby Joseph, who's great. You have Savion Smith coming back from a serious injury. And, and then obviously C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And then also Brian Branch, which Brian Branch probably is going to take a year to kind of like learn and develop behind Gardner-Johnson because that's the player they want to mold him into. But obviously, like secondary totally revamped. If the defensive line plays like it did last year, it's going to be like decent. Hutchinson's great, obviously. And then they just have like a lot of high floor guys on the edge, and then Houston, who's a ridiculous pass rusher. And like the interior of the defensive line, like that and kicker are probably the worst things on the roster, and then arguably tight end. But tight end, in my opinion, is less important than interior defensive line, which is arguably the most important position on defense. But yeah, like they signed a couple of good free agents. They signed David Montgomery. They signed obviously the corners that I was talking about. And then they signed Graham Glasgow, who obviously used to play for the team. Lions fans know him. And then they also signed Marvin Jones, who probably isn't going to do too much. Should help shoulder the loss of Jameson Williams those first 6 weeks. But like he's more of a mentor, more of just like a stopgap, like X receiver. Yeah, and then in the draft, initially I did not like the draft. I'm going to be honest. My initial reaction was like, okay, you have this many like 5 top 100 picks. I'll be honest, I was pretty mad when they drafted it the way they did. But then I watched the film, I went deep into it, and oh my goodness, this draft could be a franchise-changing draft. So, like, there's a clear focus that they went into this draft with. They wanted to get players that fit their scheme. They wanted to get players that fit their locker room. They wanted to get players that fit their culture. And they wanted to get players that are going to help right away this season. So, obviously, first-round pick, draft Jahmyr Gibbs. As soon as they drafted him, you're like, okay, Swift's gone. Next day, Swift is traded to the Eagles, where that's the place he should thrive. But Gibbs is not, like, he's not going to play. He's not a running back. He's not a running back. He's an offensive weapon. He's going to play slot receiver. You could play him outside if you want to. I don't think they will. They'll play him at running back. They'll play him as third down back, most likely. But David Montgomery is also a running back that is capable of playing third down. They could do stuff. They could do split back. They could do 2 running backs in the backfield. The opportunities are endless. So he's great. The pick I don't agree with is Jack Campbell at 18. I just don't think I don't value linebacker that much. If you look at linebackers picked there, you haven't seen a top 20 linebacker since Luke Kuechly that's been worth the pick. So it's like that's like his projection is Luke Kuechly, so hopefully it stands. But yeah, like I don't love that. But once again, if you like rearrange the order, like if you take Branch there and him where they took Branch, it's like okay, this draft's awesome. But yeah, 34, which is the trade. They traded it down initially from 6. They traded with the Cardinals, who traded back up. And they got pick 34. 34, they take Sam Laporta, who is a stud. He is a very, very good tight end. He was that entire Iowa offense last year. So he's very good after the catch. He's a good blocker. He's a good blocker. Like you know what you're going to get with him. But he is very, very good receiving tight end. He's, in my opinion, I think he's going to be what they wanted Hawkinson to be. Like Hawkinson was a good tight end, probably debatably top 5 in the league. But like Laporta, it'll probably take him a year or 2 to get his feet under him because tight end's one of like notoriously hard positions to adjust to in the NFL. But like Iowa's tight ends are great. You got Kittle, you have Hawkinson, you have Noah Fant.
They're tight end you.
Yeah, they're tight end you. So he's gonna be good. Obviously, Brian Branch is him and Hooker are the 2 players that probably aren't gonna play much this year. Hooker, hopefully he doesn't play because if he plays, that means Goff went down with an injury. or decided to just be awful, which that's pretty bad if Hooker plays this year. But Brian Branch, he's going to play rotationally. He'll probably play some slot corner. If a safety goes down, Branch will move back to strong safety, and he'll play some slot corner. But he also has the versatility to play safety as well. But I don't think they're going to re-sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think this is like a one-year rental type move. He's going to sign a big deal somewhere else. We're going to get the compensation pick. Branch is going to be his replacement. But this, like, the secondary should be great. He had Branch converted 98% of his tackles last year, which was best in the country. Fun fact, he actually went to the same high school as Calvin Johnson. So there you go, Lions fans. There's a little wrinkle. But, like, the biggest one, Jack Campbell, he's going to come in, he's going to be our starter. I don't think you can draft someone at 18 and not start him. He's the sixth, RAS, which is like what I use for athleticism. It's the relative athletic score. Kent Lee Platt. I actually interviewed him on it, and it was really good. I really enjoyed that interview. But so he had the sixth best of all time with a 9.98, which for like him being 6'4" is unreal. He crazy agility, then great speed, and then he's like a locker room leader. He's like the guy who puts his head down and works. Like he's like the ideal. He's like this prototypical linebacker. So he's gonna end up being like he's a Dan Campbell guy. Like that team should be good. The only thing is like obviously with Jameson Williams, it could be hard to adjust to the offense. But the biggest part of the team last year, the biggest offensive weakness was the running backs' inabilities to break tackles and hit open holes because the average yards like under expected, like they had a negative yards expected from the running backs, which is the stat that like it shows good offensive lines and bad running backs in comparison to yards per carry, which if you have good line and bad running backs, yard per carry can still be high because they just run straight. But they had I believe the second worst team in the league when it came to like yards above expected with running backs. So they grabbed Gibbs, who forces missed tackles all the time. And then they also grabbed David Montgomery, who is notorious for missing tackles. Like he was awesome at Iowa State at it, great with the Bears. But yeah, so a team that upgraded in basically every way, every weakness that they had, like they made an upgrade. The only argument is like they could have gotten better at defensive tackle, which I agree with you. But they have cap space. There's a couple good free agents left. We'll see if they do anything with that. But I think the Lions are going to be outstanding this year. I think that they're like obviously there's a couple teams that I'm really high on Lions. This could be some hometown bias in me, but I think the only teams that are better in the NFC are the Eagles and the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Lions. I mean, like I said, I like the guys that they got. It's just where they drafted them was a little awkward. Also, side note, sorry for the mishap in the middle there. Serbenski's internet went out, and so the video cut out, and so I had to readjust everything real quick. So it was just me and Calvin. But yeah, I like the Lions team. I'm very excited for them this year too. They're obviously one of the more exciting teams in the NFL this year. And like you said, they pretty much they improved at pretty much every position that they really needed to. Specifically, the secondary was the largest hole on the team, and they dramatically improved that position, gained several guys through free agency or through the draft. They did a great job improving that secondary. And honestly, I mean, we got great coordinators as well. We're definitely poised for to have a really good season. Question is, will everyone gel? And I think they will, at least enough to win a division and get a home game for the first time in who knows how long.
Hopefully a playoff win for the first time in 31 years.
Well, we'll get to that one soon, but I honestly think that's possible. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, we'll probably be the 3 seed because we're definitely not going to be behind whoever wins the NFC South. But we'll probably play whoever is the 6th seed in the NFC, and I definitely think we could win that game. Now, we'd probably have to play either the Eagles or the Niners after that, and I don't think we'll win that game, but, you know.
I don't know. close against Philadelphia. They have what it takes to beat the 49ers. I think there's a world where the Lions the best team in the NFC, and I truly believe that. I do think it'll be the 49ers. Eagles have a good division. 49ers have an awful division, with the exception of the Seahawks. But I do think there's a world that the Lions could be the 1 seed. As crazy as it sounds.
All right, well, I guess I'll take us to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, I'm sure most of you know, but Calvin has his own channel called The Blueprint. Whenever he's on the channel here, I always link that in the end card as well as in the description down below, so go check it out. He does a lot of great interviews with a lot of people. I've watched a couple of his episodes. They're really cool. I really enjoy those.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it really is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, I really like that stuff. It's really fun to do that.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, that'll take us to the end of this one. Hope all y'all enjoyed it. Probably next we'll have the AFC North or college football. I guess we'll have to find out soon. But yeah, that's all for us. And so until next time, adios, everyone.